Spyro: A Hero's Tale is never really talked about. It's the 5th console game in the Spyro the Dragon franchise. I adore the original on PS1. I think it may be my favorite game on that system. The game that released before this, Spyro Enter the Dragonfly, is hands down the worst video game I've ever played. So I was a little hesitant when picking this up. But who knows, I may be surprised. This game from 2004 released on the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. Of course, I'm going to be taking a look at the GameCube version today. So here's to hoping this game doesn't suck like the last one. The story is about how Red, the fallen dragon, rounds up Nasty Nork and his minions to plant dark gems over the realms. Dark gems fuel Red's power, so it is your priority to destroy each and every one of them. And that's about it. That's all the setup they give you. And that's kind of all the setup you need. Spyro knows about as much as we do. He's kind of just along for the ride. The only time you hear more about Red is when Spyro talks to the first Elder Dragon he runs into.
Ah, Master Spyro, you must be setting out to stop Red from using the dark gems to take over the world.
Yeah, something like that. Hey, who's Red?
Red was once an elder like myself. I'd tell you the whole story, but I'm old and I take a really long time to tell stories. So, how about I just tell you how to destroy the dark gems instead?
Ooh, close one. Yeah, do that.
This is a really good time to bring up the comedy. When you think about it, there's not much comedy in video games. The first thing I think of when it comes to funny video games is Telltale's Tales from the Borderlands series. But the comedy in A Hero's Tale is really well done. Other than one stinker towards the end of the game, there weren't any jokes that fell flat, and it never got stale. It's all done quite tastefully.
Hey there, Spyro. When I zap you with my wand like this, your current position in progress is saved. Also, you lose 1,000,000 brain cells.
Graphics-wise, the game looks okay. The cartoon style really benefits A Hero's Tale because it has aged very well. The second and third realms are where the game looks the best. They have great colors and atmosphere. Spyro himself looks a little washed out, but his overall design is better than anything up until the upcoming Reignited trilogy. Moving over to the gameplay, God, this game is so much fun. It is classic Spyro. I have zero complaints. Of course you want a platformer to feel good because traversal is its core mechanic, but it is so solid. Fun is the best way to sum it up. You can charge with X and use Flame Breath with Y. Most enemies can be killed with a Flame Breath pretty easy, but some with heavy armor or shields require you to charge them first. Additionally, as you make your way through different realms and take down bosses, you are gifted 3 new attacks: Electric, Water, and Ice. You can switch between these on the D-pad. Flame is the one I use the most because it's classic Spyro and that's what dragons do. The other ones aren't anything too special. They are pretty much just there to help traversal and some boss battles. It takes a little longer to kill enemies with the electric breath, but other than that, it's fine. Ice freezes your enemies in place so you can ram them down. Water is totally useless. I think I used it like 5 times, and only 1 was for combat. These aren't the only ways to take out enemies. You can also use bombs, which you can purchase from the fan favorite character Moneybags. I love this guy. In each realm, he has a main store, but also has some hologram stores spread throughout. He's pretty upfront about how much of a cheapskate he is. When you shop at his main store, you get the regular prices, but if you shop at one of these on-the-go areas, he charges you more.
Hello, Spyro. This is a remote shop, man. You can get things here for the same price you will get in the main shop. Plus shipping, destination charge, convenience fee, and teleport taxis. Happy shopping!
Moneybags has always been a greedy person, so this is such a nice and funny touch to his character. Anyway, back to the bombs. It's just an easier way to take down your enemies, but they're never that hard to defeat in the first place. There's only one time I used these bombs, and that was in the second realm where there were flying enemies, some with projectiles. The bombs have such a weird arc that it's so hard to make a precision shot. If you want to get precision out of these, just switch to the first person mode. It's really nothing that you need to spend gems on though. It never gets used. You don't always play as Spyro in this game, but you can play as 4 different characters in their own special sections. Hunter the Cheetah, Sergeant Bird, and Sparks, just like Year the Dragon. You can also play as a brand new character, Blink the Mole. You can play as these characters by approaching them in the world to do side missions to collect dragon eggs and light gems. When I saw these characters were playable, I rolled my eyes so hard. I'm here to play as Spyro, the dragon. Sergeant Bird's sections are so much fun though. I had a blast. I was really going into it thinking I would hate it, but I walked out loving it. You need to take down a select amount of vultures, shoot targets, and fly through gates within the time limit. The flying is what feels the best. I got excited when seeing him in each realm. Unfortunately, I wasn't very excited when seeing the other characters. Sparks' missions are on-rail shooter sections that have little to no difficulty. Hunter's sections are okay. He feels a little heavy to control, and his whole gimmick is his bow, but he has such a slow draw speed that you can get hit pretty easy by enemies. Pretty ironic that the cheetah has the slowest and heaviest gameplay. And finally, the new character, Blink the Mole. Since he's a mole, all of his sections are underground. He's also a little heavy to play as. He can stick to gravelly walls and moving platforms. Blink attacks with laser gloves, bombs, and a melee attack. I was so stoked after I played Sergeant Bird's first section, because it raised my hopes that the other ones would be good. And they're not. 100% honest, after the second realm, I started skipping all of these characters' sections once I saw them in the world. Except the sergeants, of course. If you really want to progress and obtain more collectibles like dragon eggs and light gems, you need to destroy all of the dark gems in each realm, and you really need to explore. Each realm is really big too, but nothing that's too intimidating. Having each area you visit be this vast is something that surprised me, but in a good way. It really fleshes out the world that Spyro lives in. There's no wasted space in these levels though. Each area holds something worth exploring, and you'll need to keep your eyes out for ways to open up the next section or collectible to collect. You'll need to destroy 10 dark gems in each realm to fight the boss and continue to the next realm. In a video game with this much openness, you'll really need to explore your surroundings because you may totally miss a way to get one of the dark gems, and if you only have one left, that means you've got to backtrack all over the map to see what you've missed. This sounds like a bad thing, but it's really not. The realm isn't so big that it takes too much time to backtrack, but isn't small enough that it's a breeze to make your way back through. It strikes a perfect balance. I actually didn't find out until the last couple hours of the game that you could open up a map by holding down the Z button. This would obviously make the game easier to look around, and it probably would have cut down on my game time, but in hindsight, I'm kind of glad that I didn't realize this until now. I had a really good time exploring and platforming in these large realms. You would assume that a Spyro the Dragon game isn't very challenging, but you'd be wrong. It's not particularly hard, but challenging, which is very welcome. Thankfully, this game recognizes that it's not fun to breeze through every single game you play. The realms you visit need to be enjoyable, right? And all of them actually are. A couple of them are a little tropey, like the Ice Realm and the Fire Realm, but even those are great and designed really well. Although the levels are challenging, open, and well thought out, I cannot say the same for the boss battles. The first boss, Nasty Nork, is a walk in the park. I figured after the first boss they would be better and more well thought out, like the levels were. They aren't. They're easy and predictable. The only boss battles I enjoyed was the third and the fourth one. The second boss, Neptune, was by far the easiest and most boring. Also, I have to point out that she sounds identical to Ursula from The Little Mermaid.
You must be Spyro. You're larger than I expected.
Huh? Normally people I fight say I'm smaller than they expected. You know, they're trying to psych me out.
Oh, I guess I just assumed dragons were tiny. You know, I spend all my time in the water, so I don't get to see a lot of dragons.
Okay, see, now you're just overacting.
I normally never want to talk about the ending of a game I'm reviewing because I think if it piques your interest, you don't want me to literally talk about everything. At least that's how I feel when I'm watching reviews. Don't spoil everything for me. But I have to talk about the final boss. You finally make your way to confront Red for the last time, and get this, Spyro charges Red into the wall. He gets zapped and immediately turns into a mech. And then your friend, the professor, turns Mecha Red huge instead of shrinking him down like he had planned. This is so ridiculous that I kind of love it. The final boss battle is actually a lot of fun though. Once you take down Mecha Red, the professor magically fixes the shrinking ray and properly shrinks Red down. He puts himself in a butterfly jar and credits. Yep, that's the end. After the credits, it takes you back to where you start the game. You can now travel back to each realm to collect the dragon eggs and light gems you may have missed. I had such a great time playing this game. It's so much fun and very classic Spyro, but with a lot of improvements made in a good way. The way the game is designed with the world, atmosphere, platforming, etc. is all really well done and well thought out. Controlling Spyro is an absolute treat. I cannot gush enough about how solid the gameplay is. After I beat the main campaign, I messed around in the worlds I've already been to because I just had that much fun controlling and playing as Spyro. I loved how A Hero's Tale really encouraged me to explore. There were times where I was truly scratching my head on how to progress. The boss battles were such a disappointment, except for the last one with Mecha Red. That one was a lot of fun. The graphics, while sometimes looking really good, needed some more fine-tuning. Mainly with how washed out Spyro looks, I could have sworn this dragon was sick. Some levels and environments are impressive, but others are quite forgettable. The only thing good about the side missions are the sections with Sergeant Bird. His were so much fun. I do understand why they put these in the game though. It's a good way to break up the same old gameplay. It just could have been done better. A Hero's Tale is actually a little long for its genre. I clocked in at around 9 hours. I enjoyed myself a lot more when playing in 2-hour sittings. Then I'd come back the next day and pick up where I left off. I'd recommend to play that way. Spyro: A Hero's Tale took me by surprise, especially with how the last game, Enter the Dragonfly, is literally the worst piece of crap I've ever played. I didn't go in with low expectations though. I went in wanting a quality Spyro the Dragon video game, and that is exactly what I got. I am so happy that I gave this game a shot, and I think you should too. I give Spyro: A Hero's Tale on the GameCube an 8 out of 10.